Thank you, John. Well, good morning. As we join together, know we are glad to have you here, regardless of your gender, your race, your age, your class, or your ability. I'm Michael Griffith, your worship associate this morning at this church, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Transylvania County, where our mission is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. We welcome you of any age, gender, citizenship status, economic situation, or sexual orientation. Thank you for being with us this morning. We can't do it without you, of course, without us all, for we need each of us to face the challenges of humanity here at home, torn world. As Reverend Leslie Takahashi, the chair of the Unitarian Universalist Association Commission on Institutional Change, says, all that we have ever loved, all that we've ever been, stands with us on this brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life that we share. We're going to have a few more announcements than we ordinarily do today. They have been rolling on the screen, and if you've not had a chance to see them, some of them are rather important. First of all, let's talk about the COVID pandemic and our protocols here. Science is giving us more and more answers, and we know better how to protect one another than we did 2 years ago. Up until this Easter, we're grateful when you wear masks on Sundays, but on Easter, we'll begin to have mask optional services here in the sanctuary. You will find that the Reverend Bob has done some extensive research, and not all of which you've heard, but he's done an awful lot of research and looked at things like masks and what their effectiveness are. And there's a chart out there on the bulletin board. It's a rather small chart, but if you have an opportunity to have a look at it, please do. And the bottom line is that there's an array of masks, some of which are better than others, and that the masks are really designed to protect you. And so that's where you have to get to the point where you decide whether you want to wear a mask in the future or not. Please be mindful that we still have to continue to do the air interchanges that we always do here at the service. We've been watching that very carefully. It's another piece of science that's been brought to help us here. And we still would like to have you adjourn to the social area right after the service. Also, if you carry some prayers with you into this space, if there's a deep joy or concern that you have, please ask the usher for a piece of paper, and you can write it down, and the ushers will deliver it to Reverend Bob, and he'll include it in his pastoral prayer. Those of you watching at home can put those on the chat box, but we won't be able to include them here at this service. Tuesday's lunchtime is a bring your own picnic on the green. Our e-news list often others gatherings from time to time as well, and everyone is welcome. Our engagement is needed this week. As the rolling slide said, there's a sign-up sheet at the front counter for volunteers for Food for the Haven, or you can talk to Virginia McDonald at some point. I don't believe she's here this morning. Our presence is requested at this interfaith gathering. Is she here this morning? Ah, you came in. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Wave your hand again. There's Virginia. She snuck in on me there. Back to the announcements. There's an interfaith gathering vigil on Ukraine tomorrow, Monday, at St. Philip's Episcopal Church on Main Street, and we hope many of you will attend. And we also want to remind you that this month we're ending our pledge drive season for the next fiscal year. This is the last weekend of the pledge drive, and so we'd like all the forms back by the 31st. You can either put them in the mail or there's a box in the lobby. If you have misplaced yours, or if you'd like another one, don't worry, we'll find you and find a form for you to fill out. You probably got a reminder, or you may have gotten a letter from Reverend Bob and the team, which should show up soon. Thanks to all of you who have already returned your form, and there's a very high percentage who have. Each week we feature a video testimonial from people in the congregation, reminding us of the many ways that this congregation is important to us and why we need to support it with our time, treasure, and talent. This week we feature someone I know well, my wife, Donna Rayburn.
Hello, my name is Donna Rayburn. For over 50 years, my husband, Mike Griffith, and I have been members of 6 different Unitarian Universalist churches. But before that, we were searching for a church that was open to all people, socially active, and free of rigid beliefs. We moved to Wilmington, Delaware for Mike's first job, and I met many women who were intelligent, rational, caring, and just plain fun. So I asked 3 of them, Sue, where do you go to church? And she said, oh, First Unitarian Church here in Wilmington. Then I asked Marcy, where do you go to church? Unitarian Church. And Pam, where do you go to church? Unitarian. So Mike, Scott, Brent, and I visited the Unitarian Church. The morning we visited was Palm Sunday. The title of the sermon was The Myth of Jesus. Well, my Southern Baptist background nearly had a heart attack. But as I learned about Mithra, a Persian god of 3,000 years ago, who had the same MO as Jesus, my mind, soul, and heart opened up to new and amazing views of religious truths. Interacting with hundreds of Unitarians through the years has greatly enriched our lives and has made us believers in social action and justice for every person. Supporting our local Unitarian Church has also been very important to us. For where would you find more people of like minds and religious beliefs? So, we have always donated to our church generously. So join us and pledge generously. Let's make 2022-23 our best year yet. Thanks for listening.
Our opening words are adapted from the words of Chip Roush. We've entered sacred time. We're about to take this time and this place sacred by our presence and intention. Churches ask us to please turn off our cell phones, but now I invite you rather deeply to turn down the volume of our fears, to remove your metaphorical masks, and to loosen the armor around your heart. Don't take my word for it. Do it as slowly as you need to. Look around you. Look within you. If you take a little risk with these good people, you may find that they have the same human needs as you do. Let go of the expectations placed on you by others and those they taught you to place on yourself. Drop the guilt, drop the shame, not to shirk responsibility and accountability, but an honest expectation of the possibility of forgiveness. Let go of the thing you said the other day. Let go of the thing you dread next week. Be here in the moment. Breathe here. Come, let us worship together. The words, the chalice lighting, come from Katie Sivani Gelfand, who's the director of religious exploration at the congregation who raised her, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans. We line our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength from one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be careful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. And now rise as you are willing or able to sing our first hymn, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? Ever hear of a rerun? You ever been in a church where they tell the same stories again and again? I think any church that relies on Scripture to help us not get so lost in our own egos, in our own greed, in our own life, repeat some stories again and again. So you will excuse me for repeating this story. You will. So once, a long time ago, in a land far, far away, there was this guy named Jesus, carpenter, religious leader. A lot of people would follow Jesus around. Ever have that happen to you? You ever have a whole group of kids in the neighborhood follow you around in whatever you're doing? You ever decide you wanted to sign up as the board president and have all sorts of people follow you? Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jesus had more than that. Jesus had a whole lot of people wanting to learn great lessons in religion. And sometimes they do really wacky things to follow Jesus around. Jesus one day decided to go off into the wilderness and just go hang out by himself and listen. Just pray and listen. Jesus made a mistake. Jesus told everyone where Jesus was going. And so what happened? Everybody said, oh, well, Jesus is over there. We better be over there. And everybody went over to Jesus. And then they got hungry. Because Jesus was having like one of these fasting meditations out in the wilderness. Fasting meaning I'm not going to eat right now. But the people hadn't prepared for that. Somehow, in understanding that Jesus was going off for some meditation and some in-depth listening, they didn't prepare for that themselves. And so they were getting grumbly in their tummies. They were getting grumbly in their attitude. What do we call it now on the commercials? Hangry. And the disciples were kind of like the board that follows Bart. Came around to Jesus and said, Jesus, we got an issue here. We got a problem. We got a whole bunch of hungry people here, and we need to do something about it. And Jesus, now I'm going to put this on Jesus. It doesn't say this. Jesus might have been really kind about this, but I know when I'm interrupted in my meditation, and I need to get away from it all, and everybody follows me around when I need to get away from it all, I sometimes have to take a breath. Okay, disciples, so what kind of food do you have? Jesus asked. Maybe Jesus didn't ask it quite that annoyed. What kind of food do you have? Jesus asked. Let's put it that way. The people who were gathered round, the disciples said, well, we have next to nothing. What do you have, disciples? Oh, well, we have a couple of fish and some loaves of bread. And Jesus says, okay, well, that's enough. Go forth. Now, a lot of people say that this next part is the miracle where everything just showed up. The miracle was Jesus made those couple of fishes and those loaves of breads multiply. But I'm a Unitarian Universalist skeptic. Maybe I would be the one who was preaching on Palm Sunday about Mithra or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking Jesus was pretty savvy about people. Had to be, because people were already always around Jesus. And Jesus, I think, said what Jesus said in almost every lesson that was taught. And that is, well, what do you think? Or what do you have? Or what do you bring with you? Because everybody who shows up comes with something. And I think after he taught the disciples to look in their own sacks for what kind of food they had, they did this kind of stone soup thing where they asked everybody else, oh, do you have anything? No, I don't have any food. I don't have any food. Well, we have fishes and loaves of bread, and it could really use some carrots. It could really use some potatoes. It could use something else. And then people say, well, I did happen to bring some potatoes. I did happen to bring some carrots. And in the end, everybody was fed. Why were they all fed? Because Jesus knew. We are an abundance. We each bring our time, talent, and treasure. We bring amazing stuff with us. In our backpacks, we have with us what we need. In our beings, we have what we need. And so the miracle is Jesus figured out, the people figured out that they could in fact survive when they thought they'd come totally unprepared. In fact, they had enough to be prepared to make it through a meal. And then I guess they all went back to their regular lives. But the idea is when you retell a story like this, it's not supposed to be just like back the way it was. You're supposed to remember. When you reach deep into yourself and give, when you decide you're going to be generous instead of just waiting for somebody else, when you decide that you have something to share and the sharing is the right thing to do, then we all don't just survive one meal. We thrive. We thrive together. Now, I didn't ask which child was going to come and light the candle, so I'm going to ask both of you to come up to get the candle. Can you do that? Come on up. And I'm going to see if we have an extra one in here, because I don't think we have the one that Kevin usually has on hand. So which one of you is going to get the light, and which one of you is going to carry it? You'll carry it? You want to get the light then? All right. Hold the candle inside of that. There you go. So if it drips, it won't get too drippy on you. There you go. And we'll sing you out as you go. Blessing, peace be with you, and a blessing, peace be with you, and a blessing. Grab this mic and get out of your way. There we go.
We now come to the cycle of life, where we voice any deep joy or sorrow in this community. We believe that connection helps us to multiply the joy, and our compassion eases the pain of our grief and sorrow. So we pause each week to enter the cycle of life. If you're watching this online, please share your joys and sorrows in the chat, and we'll light a candle for them as well. First, we honor the frontline workers on whom the burdens and risks of the COVID pandemic fall most heavily with this candle of gratitude. With this candle, we celebrate our circle of loving community. May the circle of love bloom wider and wider still until it embraces and heals this broken world. We light a candle celebrating the accomplishments of transgender and gender non-conforming people, and as a light toward awareness of the work that needs to be done to achieve trans justice. We light a candle for the milestones that are shared in the online chat. We light a candle for all those joys, sorrows, and milestones that remain unspoken at this time. And finally, we light this candle for all those who are refugees from violence in their homelands, displaced from Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and elsewhere.
I invite you into deeper prayer. And as I transition to a responsive prayer from the Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein, who's minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Greater Lynn, Massachusetts, I'm going to ask you to respond back to me, we lift up grateful hearts. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here recognize that there are some who are not here among us, still recuperating from injuries and surgeries, still very afraid of their health and feeling very fragile and vulnerable. Let us remember that one of the greatest things we can share is a simple phone call or note saying, "I missed seeing you." And if there's been anyone who's done that for us, Spirit of love and life, let us lift up a thank you to those who saw us, missed us, included us, remembered us. For this is why we have our religious community, to lift us up in the value of love and the transforming power that it brings when we all work together. Now on to the responsive prayer, in which I'm inviting you to respond. We lift up grateful hearts. In the spirit of Prophet Amos, the Unitarian minister A. Powell Davies prayed, "Help us to remember, O God, that from those to whom much has been given, much is expected. Let us join our hearts and spirits in prayerful reflection. To whom much is given, even more is asked. We have been given the bounty of this beautiful day, and we have been given the gift of the worship tradition that draws us together in this house of hope and memory, of learning, of healing, of growing and serving. We lift up grateful hearts. We've been given the inspiration of our brothers and sisters in faith who walk with us in the path of the free religious life, who companion us on our joys and our sorrows, and who are ours by some design of fate or necessity to care for and to love, to forgive and to cherish for this time in our lives. We lift up grateful hearts. We've been given minds in which to wonder and to reason, and we've been given voices to speak and to sing and to shout against injustice. And we have hands to work and build a better world that we would have for ourselves and our children. We are asked to use them all in the service of love and justice. We lift up grateful hearts. We've been given the divine spark as children of God, all, whose health and wholeness requires us to tend to the life of the soul. In our rushing, in our doing, may we not forget whose we are and what we truly are. Not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. We lift up grateful hearts. We ponder this mystery together, glad for one another, blessed for the abundance of our lives, and called to give abundantly of ourselves to it. Amen. Blessed be. We are giving people. We are the people who Jesus knew would draw from their backpacks. Even the leaders of this congregation reach into their backpacks and pull out the loaves and the fishes and all that we need. This is the final collection of March, which means it's the last one for SAFE, for the work of helping to rid our county of domestic violence, but helping those who are affected by it in the meantime. If you wanted to slip something into the little envelopes in the baskets, you can do so, or online, use the pull-down menu in the giving, or send a check in with SAFE in your memo line. If you're giving to this congregation, just a little extra this week because we are grateful, we accept all that is given in love. We will now receive the morning offering. For those at home who are not passing the baskets, please know that in real life, these baskets have quite a bounty in them. I would turn them on their side, but then they'd fall over the ground. All that is given in love, we receive with great joy, and we say, thank you. The reading that I have this morning is from Howard Thurman. It's from his 1980 commencement address at Spelman College, one of the historic black colleges in our nation. It's a long excerpt that I've chosen. A lot of times I quote Howard Thurman in just a line or two, but this one needs all that I've pulled out of this. There is something in every one of you that waits, listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself, and if you cannot hear it, you will never find whatever it is for which you are searching. And if you hear it and then do not follow it, it was better than if you had never been born. You are the only you that ever lived. Your idiom is the only idiom of its kind in the existence of everything. And if you cannot hear the sound of the genuine in you, you will all of your life spend your days on the ends of strings that someone else pulls. There is something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. And sometimes there's so much traffic going on in your minds, so many different kinds of signals, so many vast impulses floating through your organism that goes back thousands of generations, long before you were even a thought in the mind of creation, and you were buffeted by these. And in the midst of all of this, you have got to find out what your name is. Who are you? How does the sound of genuine come through to you? The sound of the genuine is flowing through you. Don't be deceived and thrown off by all the noises that are a part even of your dreams, your ambitions, so that you don't hear the sound of the genuine in you, because that is the only true guide that you will ever have. And if you don't have that, you don't have a thing. Now, there is something in everybody that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people. And it's so easy to say that anyone who looks like him or her, anybody who acts like this person acts, can't hear any sound of the genuine. I must wait and listen for the sound of the genuine in you. I must wait, for if I cannot hear it, then in my scheme of things, you are not even present. And everybody wants to feel that everybody else knows that she is there. I have a blind friend who just became blind after she was a grown woman. I asked her, "What's the greatest disaster that your blindness has brought to you?" And she said, "When I go places where there are people, I have a feeling that nobody knows that I'm there. I can't see any recognition. I can't see. And if nobody knows that I'm there, it's hard for me to know where I am." There's something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in your mother, in your father, in the people you can't stand, and if you had the power, you would wipe them out. But instinctively, you know that if you wipe them out, you go with them. So, you fight for your own life by finding some way to get along with them without killing them. There is something in you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people, and if you can't hear it, then you are reduced by that much. If I were to ask you, what is the thing that you desire most in life this afternoon? He was preaching in the afternoon. You would have to say a lot of things off the top of your head, most things of which you wouldn't believe, but you would think that you were saying the things that I thought you ought to think that you ought to say. But I think if you were stripped to whatever there is in you that is literal and irreducible, and you try to answer that question, the answer may be something like this: I want to feel that I am thoroughly and completely understood, so that now and then I can take my guard down and look out around me and not feel that I will be destroyed with my defenses down. I want to feel completely vulnerable, completely naked, completely exposed, and absolutely secure. With that in mind, I'd like us to sing 3 times through hymn number 1013, Open My Heart. John's going to play through once, and then I'm going to try to sing it along with you. I'm going to have to cheat and look at the hymn book, but you'll have the words on the screen. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. I know there's somebody there saying, "Reverend Bob, why'd you make me do something new?" Well, the sermon title is Renewing Our Treasure. Renewing our treasure. Buff it up, find it, share it, know the abundance of it. Before I get into this, I do want to mention that those of you who follow particular Christian traditions, that the Annunciation is a really important holiday, an observance. That was Friday. The Annunciation is on the 25th of March to match with 9 months later what happens, 25th of December. So that's when the angel Gabriel came to Mary and said, "Guess what? You're pregnant with the Holy." Yeah. And Mary pondered these things in her heart. Talk about surprises. We lit a candle this morning because later this week is International Transgender Day of Visibility, right at the end of this month. And the recognition of all of those people who are transitioning, who are recognizing, changing their pronouns so that others may recognize and speak up to who they are, who they really are. We're in a pretty intense time, folks. We're at a time at this very moment on the cusp of spring when everything looks like it's going to green and be better and things are going to be fine, and yet we're watching war. We're hearing a president saying that another world leader really shouldn't stay in power anymore. We're hearing about awful things that are going on all around us. Maybe we're a bit discouraged and wanting to withdraw. I'm going to repeat Leslie Takahashi's words from the opening. All that we've ever loved and all that we ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create: a deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper love of this life we share. That's why we exist. That's why this place exists, to be something of the place that helps us, as Howard Thurman had in his reading, be able to be completely vulnerable and yet feel safe. There's a whole lot of the world that doesn't feel safe, and I think this is indeed one of the safest places to be. To be us, to be real, to get past the noise of what's bothering us and deeper into understanding who we are. This is the place where when we auction off pies for unheard of amounts, I mean, how do a dozen pies bring in $1,100? That just happened, folks. How does that happen? Because people know that that money is going towards something good. We're going to work on an example of native plantings and understanding the environment throughout this whole, 1.5 acres. All right, we can do that. And we got a sign-up list that has names on it already to bring meals to the Haven. Friday, is it? No. Yeah, Friday. Life right on the